Welcome, everyone. We're so grateful that you've made time out of your busy schedules to come and be with our group tonight, our community, where we get to learn best practices and share and discuss these very critical and important matters that we get to discuss every month. So we're grateful that you're here, being joining with us this evening. Important topic tonight, the uncertainty, right? That's there's always seems like something's going on, but right now with all the DOGE and government situations and just the economy, and I've in my coaching one-on-one sessions with families, there's a lot of uncertainty. I remember one Saturday doing coachings and back-to-back sessions, and this one worked for the Department of Defense, and this one worked for Social Security, and this one worked for different areas, and just like, man, everybody's feeling the stress. So I thought let's do an emergency preparedness kind of a conversation, and what do I do in case of an emergency is what we're going to discuss tonight. Before diving in, just there are some new faces that haven't had a chance and pleasure to meet yet. So just to give you my background, my name is Brian Halverson, the president and founder of our coaching organization. Need to update this slide. In the past, you knew us as Dinwoody Consulting, and we are announcing a new update to our name. Same great recipe, that still tastes just as great, but new name is Be Money Smart, Be Money Strong. Got to get used to the new name. Be Money Strong is the new name of our coaching organization. So bemoneystrong.com. A little easier to find, hopefully, than Dinwoody. Everybody's like, what the heck does that mean? So we're trying to make it easier for others to find us. bemoneystrong.com. I'll update those on this slide. Been helping families for the last more than 2 decades, 23 years now, helping individuals and families build their financial peace. Taught Financial Peace University 16 times over 8 years. Great opportunity to help and help people to build that foundation of their financial plan and life. And then I became a Ramsey coach and love doing this. And now have a team of 9 other coaches that are here to help. And some of you are already working with several of them. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to grow and help more and more families. There are a lot of resources available to you for free on our website. Again, you can go to dinwoodyconsulting.com or go to our new site, the Be Money Strong site. There's the YouTube channel that you can subscribe to. I'm going to put these links in the chat. So if you go down to the bottom of the Zoom window, I just posted them there. There are the links to the Be Money Strong website. There's the links to our YouTube channel. You'll be starting to see other coaches posting content to our YouTube channel with blogs and video and testimonials and just you don't have to only hear from me. Thank goodness. So we're going to have some of our new coaches adding their content to it. So just you might hear it from them and somebody else might say something in a different way that just hits you. And that's what the point of this the group financial coaching program is meant to hear from each other and say, oh yeah, the way that person said it just clicked with me. So look for more growing and more content. We love reviews to help other people be inspired by your story. So if you have not left us a review on Google, we welcome and invite you to leave a 5-star review if you feel like we've earned that level. That helps other people to understand what the heck is this stuff, and are they just going to try to sell me investments? No, that's not what we do. So we help people to start winning with their money, and so I love give you the opportunity to share a testimonial there. This is our family of coaches. Some of those you are already working with, or you'll see new pictures as we continue to grow and add have a new face that'll be coming on. Alexandra is joining our team as well, so you'll be able to see her in future group sessions. As always, we always start level set the baby steps to get us all on the same foundation. The baby steps that we work through. Dave Ramsey is thanks to him for putting this together. It just makes it digestible and understandable. It's not complicated, but it can be difficult because it's the human nature that's holding us back. But first step that we do in every baby step in the roadmap is to save up $1,000 in case of an emergency. We're going to talk about a little bit about that tonight. Step 2 is to pay off all of your debt except for the house. Step 3, go back to saving, build up your emergency fund to 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. The step 4 is to invest 15% of your income for your retirement. Step 5 is to save for kids' college, if that's applicable in your situation. Step 6, pay off the house, if that's also applicable to your situation. If you wanted to buy a house, we would go back up and hit that in maybe step 3B and insert that in that step before you start investing. And then baby step 7 is to build wealth and give. That's the ultimate goal for all of us, is to live like nobody else now, so that later on we can live and give like nobody else and build our wealth. Last month, we had a special guest that was here, Eric Statz, the president of Brighton Wealth Management. He is also a SmartVestor Pro. He was the guest speaker in our group coaching last month, and I always wanted to follow up from last month. What did you do different from last month to this month? What did you try out? What did you apply? And then what did you do as a result from attending group financial coaching? And if you weren't here last month, then think about what successes and wins that you have had over the past month. Celebration is one of the greatest reinforcement techniques. So part of the psychology of winning and the psychology of success is celebration. And so being able to stop and smell the roses and celebrate and say, you know what, I saved $20. It doesn't have to be huge. It can be small. It's always nice to have, I got a $5,000 tax return, but I've had clients that'll say, well, I was at the store and I was looking at the ham, and there was this one for $2 a pound and this one for $1.70 a pound. You can tell this was a long time ago. They were saying this today's prices. And I went with the cheaper ham. Like, hey, that's a win. It shows me that you're changing from the inside out. That's where the foundation of change happens, is in your heart, and then it'll come out in your life. So I love seeing that with clients, that they start changing their mindset and their heart towards how they approach money. So let's celebrate as we begin this tonight's session of our group coaching. So you can talk about baby step 4 successes based on what we talked about last month in the financial coaching program, or just celebrate any success or win. So you're welcome to come off of mute. Also, you're welcome to put it in the chat. So I'll watch the chats and try to keep up with those. Another way of participating is through the chat or on camera take yourself off of mute. So what'd you learn last month? What'd you apply, or what's some good news that has happened to you?
Brian, I think we talked about this in our thing, but I got a new job and now we're able to start maxing out our Roth 401k. So
Excellent.
There.
So happy for you, David. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, goes right along with what we were talking about tonight, is emergencies. You guys faced one in the last couple of months of uncertainty and some challenging times. And so, yes, congratulations. I'm excited for you to start the new job and get back to the baby steps and maximizing your progress.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. What other successes and wins or things that you've learned over the last month or applied over the last month?
For me, it was knowing when to pick the lower cost item. Being in the build of my house is really kind of balancing the price and the quality, and knowing what's going to last longer. Sometimes at this lower price, sometimes you got to go $1 or $2 more and say, no, we need to have that one. It's going to last a lot longer and better for the long run.
Excellent. All right. There's a financial perspective. Do I buy cheap and buy twice or 3 times, or do I buy more expensive, and is it worth the added expense? And trying to navigate that. So yeah, especially when you're building a house, there's a lot of financial decisions that if we're not careful with, if you leave it up to the builder, they'll upgrade and upgrade and upgrade. They'll spend your money quickly. Thank you, Corinne, for sharing that. Other successes and wins over this past month.
Actually, along with that, with the prices of food going up, I have started to pay a lot of attention to the food items that I eat constantly, and they're on sale. So I stock up on those. And so like this weekend, it was the organic turkey breast. So this whole week is like organic turkey breast, but it's on sale and it balances the budget for the groceries.
Maybe you start getting sick of turkey breast.
Yeah.
That's all I eat these days. Well, it's on sale. Yeah, there are principles and preferences. Those that work with me have heard me say that often, right? The principle, I got to eat. The preference, I'd like something different than ground turkey, but well, it's food, and maybe my preferences take a back seat for a short amount of time while I'm going through an emergency or a situation or a change of a focus. I really want to maximize my progress towards my goals, so I'm going to be more savvy on what I shop with. I love that example, Christina. Thanks for sharing. Another one of my clients said recently, meal prepping was a key to her success, and she cut her grocery budget in half. I said, "How the heck did you do that?" Well, I shop the sales, and that's the meal plan for the week. So I don't have a meal plan and then shop. I shop and that's what we eat. It's kind of the chicken and the egg, which comes first. And she made the meal plan based on what was on sale. Another client this recently, like you win the most creative award, right? It's the crazy world of AI and Chat GPT. I'm getting into it more and trying to learn about it. Kind of crazy. But she said I went into Chat GPT and I told it all the ingredients that I had in the house, and it came up with my meal plan. So I didn't have to go shopping. I just was like, okay, we have really interesting recipes based on these are the ingredients, and AI gave her a recipe to put together, and that's how she made dinner that night. So fun and creative ways of winning with our money. What's happening around us is less important than what's happening inside of us. And so we have to watch what is going on inside and what's my approach to the things that I can't control. We're going to talk about that tonight about emergencies and I get job loss and the fear in the economy and so many things. All of the examples that I share have come from clients, and so it's real situations. I'm not making this stuff up. It's real things that have happened to clients in the recent past, and so we're learning and applying and sharing with all of you. So thank you for sharing. All right, so income instability, right? Emergency procedures. And as I said in my email invitation, I remember passing the halls and I was saying, like, in case of an emergency, break the glass. So maybe you have a fire extinguisher behind those the break glass. I remember also as a kid watching TV, and every once in a while it would come over on the screen. This is a test. The station is conducting the test of the emergency broadcast system. This is only a test, and then everybody would plug their ears. And if you didn't listen to the audio clip in the invitation, it'll make you jump out of your chair. It's a terrible sound. But that's it was. I remember that as a kid. It was they were always testing the emergency broadcast system, and that would come across the TV. Uh, maybe your emergency or your break glass maybe looks like this. In case of an emergency, got to break the glass and get that piggy bank out. And maybe, depending on the day, maybe your emergency glass looks like this one. Oh, that was a good one. Like, yeah, I'm hungry. I need a Snickers and break the glass, and I'm getting hangry. So, what do we do in these events of emergencies? How do I approach it? What do I do? That's what we're going to talk about tonight. As you may have heard, right? Drastic times call for drastic measures. That actually comes from a quote from Hippocrates. He said, for extreme diseases, extreme methods of cure as to restriction are most suitable. So if you have extreme disease, you need an extreme remedy. If you have extreme circumstances, you might need an extreme approach to it. Because budgeting 101 might not be sufficient for this higher level of stress that I'm facing. Right? Sometimes I can take the regular medicine. Sometimes I need that extra strength. I need to bulk up my prescription because I just had my wisdom teeth out, and this little whatever's not going to be enough. We gotta escalate. It's good prescription strength, right? And so that's what we're going to talk about. What's the prescription strength version of budgeting and addressing our challenges that we're facing? So as I said, a lot of every one of these came from current and recent and past clients. So some things that people are facing right now is job instability, where they thought they were safe, things were fine, and all of a sudden their job got eliminated. That happened to me once. I had my performance review on a Friday. Everything was good. They gave me some goals for the next year, and everything was going well. Worked for a retail company, computer company, and everything. They were really happy with my performance, and they said this is what we're going to work on in the next year. Came to work on Monday, and there was black trash bag plastic in the windows saying this location has been closed. Go to the other location that's 45 minutes away. Not even the president or the manager of that location knew. And we all just got very shocked and said, well, I guess we all got laid off. Didn't know that. Others have said, well, I need to reduce my hours. They've reduced my hours. They eliminated my overtime. And now even the base is at risk. Others have seen pending mergers saying, well, this is our company might get bought out by this other company and it's making us all stressed out. As I said, right, DOGE shutdowns. My own brother works for a government agency, and they are concerned. I'm talking with him and the family dinners and things. How are you doing? You hanging in there? And what's the latest? And who's safe and who's not? And I talked to another client that they were talking about having to let go 20% of his team because of the DOGE shutdowns and efficiencies that are going on. So a lot of uncertainty there. Layoffs, right? Business failures, right? Things that just are out of your control and things go sideways. This one was a literal one of payroll interruptions, where the person said we didn't know whose turn it was to get paid this week. When I was a teller, I worked for a bank and I was a teller, and we knew that on Friday it was whoever got to the bank first won because we knew that not everybody in the employees was their checks were not going to cash, and we just watched like okay who's coming in, and whoever got here first won the race. And then the person at the end would say, "Here's my paycheck. I need to cash it." And we'd say, "Sorry, you don't have. There's no money in that account." What? Excuse me? Like, yeah, they didn't have enough to pay everybody this week. And inflation, right? Everybody's affected by that one, but it could be an economic inflation, right? Eggs, those are expensive, right? Life is expensive at the grocery store these days. Also, here's a new term that I've heard recently of lifestyle inflation. That as my income goes up, my lifestyle also goes up. There's this slow incremental creep in my lifestyle. Got to watch out for that one, right? Because it's actually there's a principle called the Parkinson's law that will explain. I'll go into more detail later, but it basically explains why that happens. So thankfully, it's not Parkinson's disease; it's Parkinson's law. But as your income goes up, your lifestyle is going to go up as well. If you are facing any of these or have family members that are facing any of these, my heart goes out to you. Let us help them, help you. Reach out to a coach. We'd love to help the people just to stabilize and learn how to deal with these things, right? Share the recording once I post this to our YouTube channel. Share it with other people so that they can hear it as well. And I'd love to meet with them and help them along their path. All right. So what are you going to do? Are you ready for an emergency? Well, there's all kinds of emergencies, right? It's more than just financial. Maybe there's a food emergency. Maybe I need a 72-hour kit. Maybe there's a water emergency, right? Clean, fresh water has been interrupted. We had a storm and something happened, right? A hurricane. I got clients all over the country. And so that sometimes happens. So do I have that 5-gallon jug of water around? Do I have clothing based on the current season? We would have 72-hour kits and we'd make them and feel good about them. And then we'd sit under the stairs for I don't know how long, and we'd pull it open and like, man, those clothes don't fit my kids anymore. So it's about updating them. And I have winter clothes, and now it's summer, and did I rotate them? Do I have shelter? Do I have a tent? Do I have something to be able to provide shelter that if I could not be in my home for whatever reason, do I have some shelter that I can go to? And the main focus of our conversation tonight is the financial. So do you have emergency funds? And tonight I'm going to introduce a new topic that I just created, and so you're the first to hear this, the grand release of an irregular income fund. I've been pondering this and came up with a new idea, and I'd love to get your feedback on what do you think of what I'm coining as the irregular income fund, because some of my clients, maybe some of you or you have family members, have a very irregular income. I was coaching a commercial real estate broker, and he went 5 weeks with no income, and then he'd have a closing and he'd have a huge income, and talk about this roller coaster. And it was really hard and stressful on them. So they, like a lot of roller coasters, sometimes we just throw our hands up and say, I can't do anything. And so whatever. And that's not a strategy. Don't put your hands up and just hope that you make it to the end of the roller coaster. So I'm going to reveal this irregular income fund that I'll tell you about tonight. All right. So are you ready for a financial emergency? So here's some interesting statistics that I found. These ones come from Experian.com. Experian is one of the credit bureaus. So the median savings by age group. This slide hurts my heart. Hopefully none of you fall into these numbers. But if you're under 35 years old, according to Experian.com, the average savings of people with less than 35 is only $5,400. Well, they're young, they don't know better. So as you old, you get wiser, right? Well, not much wiser, right? It's 35 to 44-year-olds, the average savings is only 7,500. Well, let's just keep getting more wise. If 45 to 54, okay, I grew it a little bit, 8,700. But then I hit 55 to 64 and it goes back down. It's 8,000. All right. Wow, that's interesting to see that that's the average savings for those different age groups, those brackets. And I wonder if you look at yourself and say, "Oh yeah, this is my bracket. Am I better or worse than that?" We're going to talk about that in a second. The average income, right, has been about $100,000 in recent years. Some parts of the country that's high, and some parts it's low. And you may be above or you may be below, and so this doesn't help me to know like my age group, what's the average income, my skill set and my career, my industry. That could be very high or it could be very low, depending on. So there are a lot of variables in there, but let's go for it. The average family's monthly expenses were, according to this report, about $6,400. Okay, so that's our baseline that we're going to compare to. So are you better or worse than those averages? So here's those recent statistics again, the 101 and 6,400 on their spending. Okay, so according to those numbers, the income, 25% of their income was going to housing. And you can figure this out yourself. You can see the Dave Ramsey budget percentages on the side. You're welcome to, if you're watching the recording, you can pause it and see it, or you pull out your phone and you can take a picture of this. But 25%, again, the ones on the left are just based on the averages from the statistics that I found. 25% is going to housing. So for you, figure out how much of your spending is going towards your housing. It's going to take your rent or your mortgage amount and divide it by your monthly income. And that will tell you your percentage. So if I take 6440, or sorry, the housing piece, that I didn't have the housing number. But you take yours. If my rent was 2,000 or my mortgage was 30,000 or whatever, divided by my total income, that will give you your percentage. According to Dave Ramsey, housing, yep, should be about 25% of your income. 10%, according to the statistics, went to food. Let's compare it to Dave Ramsey's. Yep, food is 10 to 15%. So if you figure it out, here's your homework. Figure out how much you are spending on food. Take your groceries and your eating out, add them together and divide it by your monthly net income, your take-home pay, how much is coming into your account. And if we spend $1,000 at the grocery store and another $1,000 on eating out, those are real numbers from past and current clients. Some are higher, some are lower. How much of that is your income? Right? You can't just look at the base amount. Like, well, I spend $400 a month on eating out. Is that good or bad? Well, I don't know. Put it into perspective. One of those years that I was teaching Financial Peace University, I had two families. There was a lot of families, but these two families got into a discussion and a debate. We were talking about spending and budgeting and eating out. The subject came to eating out, and one family said, "Well, we spend about $200 a month on eating out," and the other family said, "Oh my gosh, that's so much money. We only spend 50." And I said, "Well, time out, people. let's look at it as a percentage of your income. So you're spending 200, you're spending 50. 200 is more than 50, but let's put it as a percentage of your income. And they did the math of that number divided by their income. And the person eating out with $50 was spending more of their income towards eating out than the family that was spending 200. So it's not just a base number. Look at your percentage. This person might be doing 20% of their income is going to food, and this person's only doing 12. Doesn't matter the amount, look at the percentage. In our food, we only want to do 10 to 15% of our income going to food. Okay, and again, if we take the average of 7,400, that's all those different age groups. If I say the average saving was about $7,400, well, according to those numbers, that's not even 1 month of expenses. I don't even have a 1 month emergency fund. The average person in America does not have a 1 month, well, barely about a 1 month of expenses in their emergency fund. So that no wonder I feel stressed because I'm always really close to the edge. So what do I do about that? Especially if I'm at the edge of the cliff, and what happens if the cliff moves underneath me because of a job loss or an instability or something happening? So we got to make sure that we back away from the edge of that cliff. All right, we saw this at the beginning, right? These are our normal steps. So we want to talk about emergency condition procedures. What do I do in case of an emergency? So yes, this works in a normal environment in baby steps 1 through 7. I won't review them again because we did it at the beginning. So what do I do if it's an abnormal, right? Extreme circumstances require extreme measures, right? We did this with COVID. When COVID came up, that 2020, we took some nuances to the baby steps because of people's unique circumstances. So for you, if you are facing an emergency or something's going on, there's a couple different stages that I've broken this into. So if you are not debt free yet, you're in baby steps 1 and 2. What do I do in that situation? I recommend you stockpile cash, right? Because I don't know what's going to happen. My job's at risk. It might get shut down, or something's happening, or there's some medical, or whatever your version of the emergency is. We want to be prepared. So we're going to stockpile cash. We're actually going to pause the debt snowball. Is that allowed? Yeah, because this is a unique circumstance. So I'm not going to do extra and plowing all of my money towards my debt snowball. I'm going to stockpile the cash instead. But make sure you're making the minimum payments, right? We don't want to go into collections. So keep making the minimums, but don't put extra. What I would have put in the debt snowball, I'm going to stockpile into my emergency fund. Now, what if you're done with baby step 2 and you have the 3 to 6 months? Maybe you're working towards the baby step 3, which is 3 to 6 months. Maybe you're already in there. So if you have your 3 to 6 months worth of expenses, or if you're working, let's take that one first. If you're working on baby step 3, trying to get your 3 to 6 months, maybe just keep going. Right? Stockpile cash. You don't have to worry about debt payments, but you stockpile cash and you plow it into your emergency fund. And if you're in 3 to 6 months, so you have that baby step 3, maybe we grow it a little bit. Let's have some inflation on our savings there. Maybe that's a good idea. So if you have 3 to 6, theoretically you should be fine. But depending on how many months worth of those expenses you have, so maybe you were a little more aggressive and you thought 3 was fine. Maybe we want a little bit more. It really comes down to your unique situation. So it depends on your job, your industry, and how fast could you find another job? Are you in a unique niche market and it's going to take you several months to find a different job? Then you might want a longer emergency fund. Maybe I've had clients to say, I need 9 months worth of expenses. I wouldn't feel good without a year, I've heard some of my clients say. It's a delicate balance because during normal circumstances, the bigger your emergency fund, the longer it takes you to get to baby step 4, which is really, really important for you to get to. Baby step 4 is investing 15% of your income towards retirement. And the longer you delay that, the more you lose the time value of money and the compounding interest and the growth. So we want to get to baby step 4 as fast as possible. Your future self is counting on you. So get to investing as fast as possible because we need the time. But if we're in the middle of an emergency, then that's where maybe I even pause the retirement savings. Maybe I pause the baby step 5 for the kids' college savings, paying down the house, baby step 6, right? Drastic times take drastic measures. So I might take some nuances again, depending on my unique situation, if you need some one-on-one help and guidance on your own, reach out to one of your coaches, reach out to me, and we can talk about your specific situation and say, okay, this is what we recommend for your situation. But I might pause those other baby steps 4, 5, and 6 in order to stockpile the cash to build a bridge between now and stability again, right? Every storm passes, right? They love the phrase, this too shall pass. We're in an emergency. Sometimes we think that the sun will never rise again, but thank goodness the sun rises every new day. Your emergency will pass. It might take some time to get through, and you might not look the same when you come out the other end. I myself have had what I call my Job years, where I had everything but the boils, and I went through some very challenging emergencies and situations and things that I had gone through. You can get through it. As one who survived my Job years, you can survive it too. It's hard, and my life looks different than it did before. But what you learn through these emergencies is critical. Tony Robbins said, "Never let a good emergency or a good disaster go to waste." So don't let a good disaster go to waste. Learn from it, prepare, be different from it. All right. So what do we do in the case of an emergency? You actually break the glass. I'm giving you permission. It's okay to use you don't need my permission. But some people are like, I can't do it. I have this emergency fund. I'm like, I know that's what it's there for. No, I can't touch it. I'd rather go into debt. Literally, if I client say, I'm going to get a loan for this. I'm like, no, that's why you have the emergency fund. Break the glass, get it, use it. No, no, no. It took me so long. It's so hard to do. Most people, I've not met anybody that had an easy time using their emergency fund. For instance, I hate having to rebuild the fund when it needs to be used. Yes, that's why people don't. When they're like, I don't want to have to do this. I'm not doing that again. I'm not going to touch it. I'll get a loan. Well, okay. Well, then you have to do baby step 2 again. Or like, I'll just starve. I'll just not eat. Okay. Remember, that's what it's there for. And once you learn how to work the baby steps, if you slide back down a little bit, you know how to get back. I myself, through my Job years, I was at baby step 6. Then I went back to baby step 1, had a mold disaster, a car disaster, a job disaster, went through a divorce. Thank goodness, didn't have the boils. But I went from 6 to 1, but then I rebuilt. You can too, if you're finding yourself through these emergencies. But it's okay to use it. But first, before you use it, you better decide, when is it okay to use it. So you need to define, here's a homework assignment, you need to define what constitutes an emergency. I'm hungry and it's Friday night and it's pizza night, and no, that doesn't constitute an emergency. But maybe some of the things that have come up in coaching sessions with clients is maybe it's something that's medical, right? If somebody gets injured, you better believe I'm going to use that emergency fund. And maybe if it's not even enough, then I might have to go debt. But I'm going to start with my emergency fund. Maybe it's something with transportation, and it's not the 0% and it's on sale. That's not an emergency. This is like, if I don't have a way to get into work, my source of income is at risk. Well, guess what? There's public transportation. So somebody like, well, I got to have a car. It's like, well, maybe you can get yourself to work through other means. And it's not. I've had one client, he rented a car for like 6 months. I'm like, that's the worst idea ever. He was spending $1,200 a month because he didn't want to buy a car. Yeah, yeah. Sometimes we do some crazy things. That's what coaching's here for. It's not off the ledge. Like, that's not a good idea. Transportation, I got to get to work. Again, principles and preferences. Principle, I'd really like a limo. A preference, that's the principle, I got to get to work. The preference, limo, no. Preference, bus will take you. How about a bike? Ooh, that's not common sense in today's world anymore. No, I need the new one. I got to get an Uber. Mm-mm. All right, housing. Something that's putting your housing at risk, or something that putting your food at risk, or right. Those are the 4 walls that we talk about: is housing and utilities and transportation, food. Those safety and stability aspects. I've been talking a lot. Come off the mute. Is there anything else that you would put in there as an emergency? What qualifies as an emergency for you and your family?
I guess it might go under medical, but Death in the family and traveling to be with family.
Okay. Yeah, that has happened actually recently to some. Like, yeah, we had to travel because of there was a death in the family, and yeah, those are hard situations. Amber, you got your hand up.
So we're moving back to the United States at the end of the month. And although we had planned it, we didn't really have a grasp of what it was going to cost. So that's going to come out of the emergency fund.
Okay. Yeah, on it's something. If I don't have time enough to have a sinking fund, like, oh, I got 3 months and I can start prepping. Well, 3 months ain't enough. Okay, then I might have to dip into that emergency fund. And I know as soon as I do, guess what? After the emergency passes, I'm back to baby step 1 or 3 or whatever, whichever step I had to drain it from. Rebuild it. You can rebuild. So we learn it. We have the discipline. I wish that life was a straight line moving in one direction. I wish the baby steps was a easy escalator. It just you just stand there and it just takes you up to the top. Unfortunately, sometimes life feels like you're playing chutes and ladders, and you're moving up there, and sometimes you fall back down. And you're moving up there, and you fall back down. And it's okay. Once you learn these principles, you can rebuild and you can get back. I've had to do it myself, so I speak from personal experience, and I know you can as well. Okay, so let's talk about this new idea that I've just been developing, this irregular income fund. So if you yourself or you have somebody in your life and family or anybody that is has an irregular income, real estate agents or salespeople. I had a client that the wage earner in that family worked for the family business, and he was selling plumbing supplies. And so some months it was a roller coaster, and they'd get a small stipend, and then the commission check would come in, and man, it was this constant roller coaster. Okay, so if you have an income, irregular income, this is for you. So what we're going to do, follow me on the math. There's a bit of exact instructions that we're going to walk through and follow along with me. If you have questions, raise your hand or come in the chat or interrupt so we can make sure that this is applicable and there's some takeaways, some nuggets in here. So if you have an irregular income, you're going to calculate your average income over the past year. Now, it's tax season coming up, so I might know, okay, I made this much money and divided by 12. Well, that might be an oversimplified way. I would look over the last 12 and say, how much did you actually have coming in? So in this family's example, they're getting $8,000. Nice, easy round numbers. $8,000 is coming in on average into their income. So this should be the maximum budget amount. So I don't let your highest, well, sometimes I'll make 10,000. Well, don't budget off of 10,000. You need to budget off of what the actual average is based on your past. The past doesn't dictate the future, but it informs the future. And so I'm going to learn from that and say, okay, based on my roller coaster, 8,000 was the average. That becomes my maximum budget that I'm going to start budgeting against. All right. Now let's look on the other side. Identify the worst. What was the worst it ever was? You're going to identify the lowest month's income over the past year. And in this family's example was 5,000. Okay, normally, average, it's 8. But that 1 month, man, that was a tough month, and we only made 5,000. You're going to do your own numbers, but I want you to get those two numbers. What's your average? What's the worst that it has been over the past 12 months? Now we're going to identify how much this swing, right? What's the swing amount between the 8,000 and the 5? So you're going to figure that out. You're going to divide that lowest income month by the average month. So I'm going to take 5,000 divided by 8,000. And I'll be able to see, okay, that worst month, no wonder it felt so tough. I only made 62% of my average. If I was in math class or in high school and I got a 62% on a test, that my mom wouldn't have been very happy with me. She was a school teacher. So I'm only getting 62% of my income. I'm going to feel that. That means that your income, it swung 40%. From your average, your lowest was 40% in one single month. You're going to feel that. Who here who could experience a 40% income loss and not feel that? Well, you better have an emergency if you do. Okay, talk about stress. So we better be ready for it because you have an irregular income. Your career choices have put you in a situation where you're riding the roller coaster. All right, so next step, we're going to calculate. Everybody with me? Okay. Any questions about what we did on this stuff? We good? Okay, any questions? Holler, put it in the chat. Okay, continuing on, we're going to calculate the difference between each of the below average month's income and your average. Again, my average was 8,000, and this month it was 7,700, and this one was 6,000, and this one was 65, and this one was 71, whatever. You're going to figure out every month's income over the last year, and you're going to total the difference between the below average and that average. You're going to total up all of those amounts. And you're going to take that total shortfall over the year. I'm going to be short, well, on average. In the last month, I was short from the average. I was short this a bucket amount of money. So that's your total shortfall that you need to be prepared for. If next year is like last year, you need to be ready for these months that are going to total this much lower. But remember that swing? We want to build it up a little bit in anticipation of that potential income swing. So that 40% that we were talking about. So if the total shortfall of your below average income equaled $6,000 in this hypothetical example, I'm going to add a buffer to it of another 40% because that one hit, one disaster of that 40%. So take my average of the shortfall, 6,000, and that 40%. So that's 20% of the 6,000. 40% is 2,400. So I'm going to add that to the average. My swing amount plus my shortfall amount, 2,400 plus 6,000 equals 8,400 bucks. So that's my fully funded, what I would consider a fully funded irregular income fund. Lots of math today. So sorry for the drink from the fire hose of math. Any questions? Or stop, pause, rewind. Any questions around that? And how do I determine? It's kind of like, how much do I need for the fully funded emergency fund? 3 to 6 months? Well, you have to have a budget first to know I spend $6,400 a month. So 3 months worth should be 20,000, right? Whatever, right? The amount that you got to know your numbers. What do I need in a fully funded emergency fund? What do I need to have in a fully funded irregular income fund? And these are two different funds, because if you have an irregular income, when you have a bad month, it's not an emergency. You know what's happening. You have an irregular income. So do I use my emergency fund? Or what if I had this irregular income fund that I could use to supplement my income? And I keep my emergency fund intact for the medical and the transportation and the housing and I didn't say this, pets. For some people, right, the pets is an emergency. Something happens to my dog and I'm taking her to the vet. All right, there's an emergency. Medical for me or medical for my animals. Okay, so each month, here's what you do now that you know that number. I got to get to my 8,400 in a fully funded irregular income budget or fund. I mean, you're going to take each month that you have a below average income, and you're going to transfer that difference, the shortfall, from your irregular income to your lifestyle checking. What the heck is a lifestyle checking? I have another video that talked about banking 101 and optimizing the bank account. So see that video or talk to your coach and we can explain what the heck is a lifestyle checking account. But you're going to take it out of the irregular income and you're going to supplement. You're going to be your own bank and you're going to supplement your budget with your irregular income. But on the flip side, each month that you have above average, right? Because half the year I'm better and half the year I'm not. When you have an above average income month, you're going to transfer the difference back into the irregular income. Right? That's what replaces it. Because some months I'm funding it and some months I'm draining it. It's not the month to go to Disneyland. Like, woo, we had a great month. Let's go spend it. Are you ready for an emergency? People are habitually bad at calculating the risks. And most of my clients will create a plan based on the sun is always shining and it's always run rainbows and butterflies and it's all going to work out. And here's my plan based on the best case, win the lottery plan. Like, no, you're going to have some bumps in your life. So you got to be ready for those emergencies. So having that irregular income fund is nice because there's your shock absorber, right? That's what absorbs the bumps in your income. As your average income changes, it might go up, hopefully. If it goes down, this year's not as good as last year, then you need to adjust your irregular income fund amount accordingly because you might need more, you might need less. Your budget's going to have to change because your life has got to change. All too often we set one budget and we think that's going to be the budget for the rest of our lives. Unfortunately, it's never that easy. So you got to adjust. Every month is a different budget based on your realities. Okay. Let me pause for air. Any questions about irregular income funds? You guys are hot off the presses. No, I've not taught this to anybody yet. Any questions, concerns? Does that make any sense? Only makes sense in my head. You're in the irregular income, test it out. Put it to the test and text me or email me, call me, let me know if how it's working and helping you. The sole point of having the emergency fund, it gives you the peace of mind. Now you have another one, the irregular income, that helps you to absorb the bumps in the road. All right, let's talk about identifying assets during an emergency. Right, I had all everything was going fine, but then I actually had an emergency. As much as I prepared, sometimes you can't anticipate everything. Sometimes you might have a Job-like moment as well. So I've had to do this with clients. What are your assets that you could use in the case of an emergency? Well, maybe I have some cash. Maybe I have an emergency fund. Maybe I have some collectibles. I literally every one of these has been a client. Shoes, watches, artwork, action figures. Yeah, literally. He used to work for a toy store, and when they came out with the new thing, he was an employee. He got first dibs, and so he ended up with this massive room in his house, all toys from his years of work. Vehicles, land, houses. Maybe you have an extra bedroom, right? Hey, I could get a renter. Okay. Right? Desperate times call for desperate measures. But those are my assets. Well, I'm going to list them in order of liquidity. Now, there's a financial term that says liquidity means how fast can you turn it into cash? Well, cash is cash, so that's 100% liquid. My collectibles, my Star Wars action figures, not so liquid. Right? I got to get them on eBay. I got to find a buyer, and then I can turn them into money. Selling my house, that's going to take some time, not very liquid. Okay. And you list them in liquidity order as then also with preference. With the one family I was coaching, there was a big debate between do we sell the land or do we put our house for sale? Or do we put a mortgage or a home equity on our house? That was an asset. They could use their house to do it. And the husband and the wife had very strong feelings around which one should go first. One thing I didn't have on there is they had coins, gold and silver coins. They had it and they were like, well, I'd rather sell the coins than sell grandpa's farm. Okay, well, list them and see what's the order of preference. And please don't worry, you can rebuild after the emergency. Right? Think of every natural disaster, people in the hurricanes or in the fires, and people are rebuilding right now. They're trying to rebuild their lives and will be for years hereafter. You can rebuild. It's it's not a fun experience. We don't wish it on anybody. But if you're called to go through this experience, you can rebuild too. I say again, say it from my own personal experience. And then let's get to budgeting. Okay, what do we need to do? We're going to review your budget and we're going to decide what do we keep? That might change month to month. What can I cut? What could I reduce? And I had a client add this one. She said, I'm going to make it myself. Oh, I'm going to add that to my list. I now have a fourth thing. Maybe I can make it myself. I have a client right now, and she makes her Christmas gifts. It's meaningful because she thinks like, what does this person want? And she makes them a gift using her talents, and she makes them a gift for Christmas. So that she does not, well, I got it's Christmas, and you got to spend all this money. No, we justify why we're causing all this stress on ourselves. Okay, so group discussion. Come in the chat or on off of mute. Think about, and I'd love to hear from you. And this is where you get to help and build up each other. So, what have you done when you've gone through an emergency that you have faced? What have you seen other people do? Or what would you advise a friend if they were going through a similar situation? Feel free to come off of mute and share and your answer to any one of these questions, or if there's something else on your heart or mind that you want to share, or a nugget that you're finding through this conversation, come off of mute and we'd love to hear from you. This is where you guys get to help each other. Green in the chat says, I've done the eat what is in my pantry for a week and not shopping, and you survived. Maybe it wasn't the gourmet meal. Sometimes we get to get creative. But you did it for an entire week. That's awesome. Was it self-imposed or did you have an emergency that you were going through? Emergency? Yeah. Okay.
emergency.
Okay. All right. You figured it out. Another guest on there is I don't know have the name connected to the iPhone. How long until this video goes on YouTube? Oh, later tonight. It's an emergency. I got to get this on. I got to watch the recording. Brian talks too fast. I got to slow him down. Play it back at half speed. Maybe it sounds normal. Sorry, I'm passionate about this fun stuff. It later, usually tonight. It's got to compile. I've got sessions with clients after this, so hopefully later tonight or tomorrow it'll be posted. So the link is in the chat. Again, subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit the notifications, and when it posts, you'll see it there online. Rudy, got your hand up.
Not that Amber and I've gone through an emergency, but thinking of our move and things like those, and not to make sure we have unnecessary expense. Going back to the whole thing in emergency, what do you have in the pantry? Food, you can use. So that's something that we've been very mindful. Okay, what can we use in the pantry so as not to make the food budget any bigger than what it's supposed to be? Is what we've been doing for the past 2 months.
Excellent. Yeah, be a savvy shopper. You might have to change. Well, I don't like that kind. Or I've heard this lately. My kids are really picky. I'm like, well, if they get hungry, they'll eat what there is. Well, they have special dietary needs. Okay, that's different, right? The gluten free, like, well, I got a cardboard. You want to eat that? Well, sometimes if they have medical issues, I've got daughters that can't eat the normal off the shelf kind of food. So yeah, that adds some unique situations to your situation. Jeff, you came off of mute. Do you have a comment?
Yeah, I was just going to say there are times where we've looked into the help that the city or the county provides, even the state provides. So it could be slow, but if you see something coming up, let's say something's going on with the business or the company that you're working for, at least you can kind of prepare a little bit better and reduce the wait time for, let's say, SNAP coupons or whatever to come through. And there's other stuff too. There's so many things on the helps. There are helps websites to make it through emergency, so you don't necessarily have to jump or dive into your emergency funds. But we've done a number of those things, as well as sell what we have to sell. A lot of things. If what I'm working through right now is anything that I've had for over a year, I just sell it. And I guess I haven't used it enough to really warrant that I keep it. And like you say, you can always rebuild it or restore it if needed. We're also looking at possibly a move to a different city, because Portland is getting pretty expensive. So there are other less expensive places to live. Of course, there's moving costs, so we have to take a look at that. And, if we're renting first and last months, we got to keep all that stuff in mind.
Yeah.
And with the move.
There's that emergency fund might be the moving costs or the first months. Yeah, you need this.
Yeah, exactly.
Keep going.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay. That's awesome. Yeah, have a garage sale, right? Sell stuff. Right? I love that. Just look, I haven't used this in a year. But as soon as you look at it, then you're like, oh no, I need that. Right? Put it in a bag. If you don't open the bag for 6 months, sell it. Put it on eBay, right? Have a garage sale.
Right.
Somebody will buy it. Okay. Thank you for that suggestion. Yeah, but looking down the road, forecasting and anticipating, okay, things are a little rocky. They might get worse. I need to start preparing. I might need to start changing, right? Go to your budget. See where you can cut before you have to sacrifice. Maybe I don't need all the streaming services. Maybe I'm going to stop eating out. Maybe right. This is where you start going and seeing there's stuff that's easy to cut, and then there's the stuff that's a little harder, and then a little harder, and ooh, this one really hurts. And so you just start going there and see how long do I have to survive this emergency? When the thing's going to turn around? Another thought I had when you were speaking, Jeff, was boost your income. Right? We're talking a lot about reducing expenses. Well, what about increasing the income? I'm coaching another family. He's like, I'm going to go donate plasma. Okay, anything legal, moral, and ethical, let's go do it. And you can make, like, I'm going to make all this money this month. I'm going to donate plasma. Okay. Many a college kid has put themselves through college on plasma.
I did that in college, but now I realize that you can make $5, 6, 7, $800 a month just giving plasma.
Yeah.
That's amazing. You just have to watch
Inflation.
your health.
Yeah, right.
That's
Absolutely. Don't do anything that's going to ruin the long term. But I might pick up a second shift or pick up a second job or
mhm.
use your talents and abilities to make an income, right? You speak English, so you can teach kids in China how to speak English. And I had a friend whose wife taught English at 3 o'clock in the morning before the kids got up because he had to go to work and she needed to, they were trying to hustle and have, how do we have two incomes when we have little kids and we don't want to pay for daycare? Well, I'm working 8 to 5, so you get to work at 3 o'clock in the morning and teach the kids in China English. Like, okay, they made it work. So this is where we get creative on income creation as well as expense reduction. Any other thoughts on helping and share best practices with the group? There's a lot of websites out there. You can get creative, and there's all kinds of blogs like that. 10 easy ways to create a side hustle, or here's 25 ways to reduce your expenses or change your grocery bills and so forth. So it starts in your mindset. That's where you look at first is when I go to the store, am I even aware of what I'm spending? Or am I just in muscle memory autopilot mode and I just keep putting the same things in the cart that I always do? All of us have mindless spending where it's just a habit and it's in there. And I've had clients that had car wash memberships for cars that they had sold 3 months ago. They just forget to look at their finances and say, why do we have that around here? Or who the heck has my Amazon password? Right? Everybody has different money leaks. One lately has been the micro purchases on their cell phones. Like, okay, you got to watch that. I had a client who spent $600 a month in cell phone. I got to buy another life. I got to buy another implement, another tool, another whatever. So watch those expenses. Be very mindful and cautious and conscientious. I'm going to be careful with my spending. All right, let's wrap this up. I know our time is waning. The emergency preparedness homework. Okay, every session we need to take things away and to be different. If nothing changes over the next 30 days, then was this a loss of time or was this an investment? Only you will determine that. So make sure that you put to use what you're learning. Hopefully you've got some gold nuggets. Before I move on, I wasn't watching the chat. So additional chats about best practices. Have harvesters food baskets monthly that have no income limits that I have done before to stretch my food. Good. Yeah. Looking at co-ops and neighborhood things, if I can get produce and things. Another comment, also not eating meat daily, 2 to 3 times a week only. Okay. Yeah. Changing my habits. All right. I'm going to try new things. Desperate times call for desperate measures. And we're going to change our diets. We're going to change our consumption. Maybe I need to change my cell phone plan. And I'm going to go to a secondary carrier that is 25 bucks a month for unlimited versus the $99 that I'm paying with the big name brand um, cell phone carriers. So thank you for putting those comments in there. Also focusing on the facts and not the emotions, getting out of panic mode. Thank you. Excellent. Yeah, don't go into panic mode. That's actually a great segue to this one, right? Avoid focusing on your fears. As President Roosevelt said, right? The only thing to fear is fear itself. So don't let the fear get inside. All the water in the world can't sink the littlest ship unless it gets inside. So watch what's happening on the inside. Don't focus on your fears. Make a plan, right? Come up with what am I going to do? And that plan might change month to month the longer the emergency goes on. Decide what constitutes an emergency. If you have not had your own discussion with your family or yourself, sit down and make yourself decide what would I use the emergency fund for? What would I break the glass on to and open that piggy bank up for? And do I give myself permission to break the piggy bank? Right? If it qualifies as an emergency, then yes, please give yourself permission. Another homework assignment is to accelerate, if you're facing emergency, accelerate your emergency fund savings pace. What could I keep, cut, and reduce, make myself, what could I redirect towards that emergency fund? Maybe I get a second job. My plasma money is all going straight into the emergency fund. Or I'm going to start out that crazy irregular income fund that Steve was talking about. I got to build that up. So accelerate your pace and maximize that. Get done, right? Build it up. Get your irregular income fund. And please prepare in more ways than just financial. That's just a piece of it, right? Do I have my I grew up in Southern California, so we had earthquake drills, right? Keep your shoes next to your bed. Don't put the bed under the window, right? I still have those. I'm in Utah now, and we don't really usually have earthquakes, but I'm always like, where's the bed go? There's the window. Like, I don't live in LA County anymore. So, but I'm just that's how I grew up. So have that preparation mindset. Do I have food? Do I have water? Do I have shelter? Do I have clothing? Do I have money? We didn't talk about this, but do I have small bills? Some people are like, well, I've got gold in case of an emergency. I'm like, I don't think Walmart's going to make change with your gold. Like, I don't know, like how much gold is a roll of toilet paper worth? I don't know. Can you make change? I don't know. So I need some small dollar denominations, and that way I can get through the emergencies more than just financial, right? Have your documents, have your papers, have emergency contact information, all that goes along with the plan. And finances is just one piece of the overall aspect of your life. So thank you so much for being here this evening. Any questions, comments, final thoughts? You're welcome to put it in the chat or come off of mute. If you want to share a gold nugget, something you'll take away from this session this evening. Amber.
A question. So
Yeah.
the Income Instability Fund, I'm
Yeah.
going to call it the II fund. Can we stack that onto our emergency fund, or do you think we should have it in a separate account?
Great. Ooh, that's a really good question. All right, I'm going to go psychology. Can I give you the psychological answer? There's a psychological answer, and then there's a financial answer. The financial answer is it doesn't matter, right? If you had an emergency fund and you just added that extra 8,400 in this person's case, right, and just put it in there, it doesn't matter. Mathematically, it's the same. I can have it over here or over there. I'll give you the psychological answer. Everybody hates using the emergency fund. So I always tell people you need another, if you're saving for taxes, if you're self-employed and you're saving for taxes or a sinking fund, don't put the sinking fund in the emergency fund because your brain will think and associate that's only for emergencies and I'm not allowed to spend it. But you knew it was coming. But psychologically, you just won't ever touch your emergency fund. I've seen it way too many times. So I'm like, just open another account. Now, if you can get past that, you don't have that psychological barrier like most of people I run into do. Put it all in your emergency fund. That's fine. And you just have to remember, this is emergencies. This is irregular. Be careful that those don't become slush funds. Right? I have clients that are like, well, I sold a house and I'm buying another house, so I'm going to put all my proceeds from the sale of the house into my emergency fund. Like, you better watch out. You know which one, where's one begin and where's one end, because we don't touch the emergency fund unless it truly is an emergency. And if this is my house fund, or if this is my irregular income fund, that I have to know my numbers. So you either keep the account separate, or you keep good records, and make sure you give yourself permission because it's just funny. I right, my psychology background. It's just interesting. Like, I just can't touch it. I just can't touch it. Like, okay, then open another account, because then you know you're going to spend it. And if you had a tax account, you have no problem using the tax account for that. And so it doesn't touch your emergency fund. So that's our human nature. Does that answer your question, Amber? That was an excellent question. Okay, awesome. Cynthia asked in the chat, what should we open multiple savings accounts? Okay, good question. That kind of goes along maybe with Amber's. If it's for the irregular savings, irregular income fund and my emergency fund, as I would say yes, as long as you can meet. Usually, savings accounts have minimum balances or monthly service fees or requirements. So just make sure that you can meet those minimums. I don't want those accounts getting eaten up in fees. So if your savings account at the beginning, right, maybe I have a $500 minimum balance in my beginning emergency fund, I don't have $500. Then put it in a checking account, not a savings. I just don't want you to get killed by fees. Yeah, Joe says I prefer free checking accounts. Me too. So until I get a bigger amount, I have several free checking accounts. If your bank offers free checking accounts, again, make sure you're not getting killed in fees. But I've again watched the bank account optimization lesson, but there's different checking accounts that I'll have for different usage and needs. Any other questions before we wrap it up? Amber, you got another one? Keep them coming.
Not exactly a question, just a reminder to ask your bank to raise your interest rate on your savings.
Yeah, see what they can do. It doesn't ever hurt to ask. Or if they won't or can't or whatever, then shop around. You can go to bankrate.com and shop the different other high yield savings accounts and see who's doing the highest. As often as I go in there for clients and looking at them, it's just interesting that they come and go. So they were the top for a while, and then they lowered their rates, and they're not on Bankrate anymore. So they do come and go. So you just kind of chase the rates a little bit, maybe depending on how much you want to chase them. But most of the big banks, you'll get 0.02%, tiny, right? 0.02. So you can go on to an online money market account, get the reputable FDIC insured bank, and you might get 4.5%. So it's all online. So you got to be okay with that. But that's another way that it doesn't have to be in just a checking account earning 0 or a savings account earning 0.01. So there's good, better, and best on where you park it. Other thoughts, questions, comments? Okay, so final reminder also is to use the same link that you signed up for this one. You can move it forward to the next month's and sign up for the April's group coaching session. Send it to a friend, family member, anybody, and pay it forward and invite them to come along. I'd love to have them join this as well to get the help that they might be seeking and needing. So if you need some one-on-one help, reach out to one of your coaches, to me or one of my other coaches. You can find us all listed on the Be Money Strong website, and we'd love to help you. So have a wonderful evening. Thank you for coming. Hope this was helpful and beneficial to you. Hang in there through those emergencies. You can get through it, and I'll see you soon. Thank you.